Imagine a sunny suburban morning where you're sipping coffee in your own backyard when the HOA president storms up. Phone already dialing. Screeching to 911 that you're a violent threat who just lunged at her, all because you calmly said no to a warrantless inspection of your garden. What she didn't realize was that her little power play was about to get her dragged out in handcuffs while the whole neighborhood watched her mask shatter. In the tidy cul-de-sacs of Oakwood Estates, everything looked perfect on the surface: manicured lawns like green carpet, matching mailboxes, and American flags waving in perfect unison. But underneath that postcard perfection was a suffocating web of rules so petty they could make a grown adult cry over grass length. 3.5 inches max. No more than 2 political signs. Holiday lights had to come down by January 5th. Or else. And God forbid your backyard looked like it actually belonged to real humans living real lives. Logan Hayes had learned that the hard way. At 42. The freelance graphic designer had turned his home office into a thriving small business creating eco-themed prints and branding for sustainable brands. His backyard was his inspiration, a vibrant native plant garden buzzing with life, complete with a couple of beehives that produced the best honey in the county. He sold the honey in prints at local markets and online. Nothing crazy. Nothing commercial in the strip mall sense. Just a guy who loved watching bees do their thing while he worked. 4 months. Victoria Lang, the HOA president and part-time real estate shark, had been circling like a vulture in pastel blazers. She'd smile that plastic smile, the one that never reached her eyes, and drop little comments at neighborhood events. Logan. Honey. Your garden is so rustic. Don't you worry about property values? We all have to make sacrifices for the community. He just nodded politely, biting his tongue. Because Logan had already been burned once. 6 months earlier. Victoria had quietly spread whispers that he was antisocial and bringing down the vibe after he pushed back on a ridiculous fine for his bird feeder. Parents started side-eyeing him at the park. A couple of tutoring clients for his side design workshops ghosted him. He stayed quiet, watched, and documented every text, every email, every passive-aggressive note left on his door. Patience was his weapon. One crisp Tuesday morning, the click-clack of designer heels on his driveway announced her arrival. Victoria marched up in a mint green blazer that probably cost more than his monthly mortgage. Her platinum hair helmet sprayed against the breeze. Trailing her was her loyal lapdog, board treasurer Derek Mills, looking like he'd rather be getting a root canal. "Logan," she called out, voice syrupy sweet. "We need to chat about your situation back there." She wrinkled her nose toward the garden as if it smelled like a landfill instead of lavender and rosemary. He set down his coffee mug and walked to the gate, keeping it closed. "Morning, Victoria. What situation would that be?" She gestured dramatically, camera on her lapel already recording. "The bees. The weeds. Residents are complaining about safety and aesthetics. We're here for a wellness and compliance inspection." Standard procedure. Logan smiled. Calm as still water. "Appreciate the concern. But the covenants don't require inspections without cause or a warrant. County law backs that up. You're welcome to look from the sidewalk." Victoria's smile tightened like a rubber band about to snap. "This is for the greater good, Logan. Property values affect everyone. Think of the families. The children." Derek shifted uncomfortably, mumbling something about bylaws. Logan kept his voice even. "If there's a genuine issue, file it properly. Until then, my yard stays private." That's when Victoria flipped the script. She stepped closer, voice rising for the neighbors now peeking through curtains. "Are you refusing compliance? This is unacceptable." She clutched her pearls, actual pearls, and stumbled back theatrically as if he'd shoved her. "He's threatening me. Derek. Are you getting this?" Her phone was already at her ear. 911? Yes. This is Victoria Lang at 142, Oakwood Drive. There's a man here becoming aggressive, he won't let me leave and I'm scared for my safety. Logan hadn't moved an inch. He just stood there. Hands visible. Recording on his own phone like his wife had quietly advised weeks ago. The absurdity hit him like a truck, a grown woman in heels screaming danger because a guy wouldn't let her snoop through his tomato plants. Within 15 minutes, 2 cruisers rolled up. The officers looked exhausted. The kind of tired that comes from too many HOA nonsense calls. Victoria poured on the tears and trembling lip for them while Logan stayed polite and factual. "I never touched her. Security footage from my cameras shows everything." The cops took statements. Clearly annoyed at the waste of time. "Ma'am, this looks like a civil matter," one said. "False reports aren't a game." But the damage was already spreading faster than truth ever could. By lunch, Victoria had posted the cleverly cropped video in the neighborhood Facebook group and a new Safe Oakwood page she magically created. The caption, "Violent confrontation during routine HOA safety check. Is your family safe with this man next door?" Comments flooded in from accounts that had never posted before. "He always seemed off. My kids play nearby, terrifying. Someone call CPS if he has children around." Logan's inbox exploded with cancellations. Corporate clients for design work suddenly reassessed partnerships. Parents in his weekend design workshops for teens pulled their kids with vague excuses. Even the local honey co-op that carried his jars texted, "Due to recent events, we're pausing our relationship." His quiet life, the one he'd built after years of corporate burnout, was evaporating in real time. He didn't rage online. He didn't fire back. Logan sat at his desk that night, watching the comments roll in, and smiled a small, cold smile. Because while Victoria was busy playing victim, he was connecting dots. A disillusioned board member had slipped him a coffee meeting earlier that week. "She's not just about rules," the guy whispered. "She's got a deal cooking with developers. Your house sits on the edge of the parcel they want to turn into luxury townhomes. They need everyone to sell or get forced out." Logan listened, recorded discreetly, and kept gathering. Every fake violation notice, every edited clip, every whisper campaign. He was the guy who'd been slandered for months as the problem neighbor, and now he was watching the puppet master trip over her own strings. The tension built over the next few days. Victoria doubled down, calling an emergency board meeting to vote on massive fines and possible liens against his property. For the safety and harmony of Oakwood Estates, her email read. Neighbors who used to wave now cross the street. Logan's wife, Mia, a sharp-eyed captain in the county sheriff's fraud unit, had been coming home later and later. But she kept telling him the same thing, "Stay calm. Record everything. This ends soon." He trusted her. He'd always trusted her, especially since he knew she couldn't tell him everything while the investigation was live. Friday afternoon. The community center was packed. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Victoria held court at the head table, her coral blazer practically glowing with self-satisfaction. Derek sat beside her, looking green. Residents filled the chairs, some whispering, some glaring at Logan as he sat quietly in the back row. "Mr. Hayes has repeatedly violated community standards and shown aggressive behavior," Victoria announced, voice dripping false concern. "For the protection of our families, we must vote on immediate enforcement actions, including potential foreclosure proceedings if fines aren't paid." Murmurs rippled through the room. Someone coughed nervously. Logan just sat there, hands folded, observing the way her confidence grew with every head nod. Then the door opened. Captain Mia Hayes walked in wearing her full dress uniform, badge shining under the lights, flanked by 2 deputies and a county prosecutor. The room went dead silent except for the click of her shoes. "Sorry to interrupt your little meeting," Mia said pleasantly. But her eyes were steel. "Victoria Lang, you're under arrest for filing a false police report, extortion, conspiracy to commit fraud, and multiple counts of official misconduct under state law. Step away from the table, please." Victoria's face went through a glorious rainbow of emotions: shock, confusion, then pure, unfiltered panic. "This is outrageous. You can't do this. I'm the president of this association." Mia held up a thick folder. "We have 18 months of evidence. Edited videos. Coerced board votes. Kickback emails with the development company that stands to make millions once they flip these properties, including yours. Logan, you targeted families with bogus violations until they sold cheap. The 911 call was just the latest stunt in a long con." Derek suddenly found his spine. "I'll testify. She made me help alter minutes. I have copies." Victoria's voice climbed into hysteria as the cuffs clicked. "This is a setup. Entrapment. My lawyers will destroy you." Mia leaned in slightly, voice low but carrying. "Your lawyers are already talking plea deals in the next county over. The development deal is frozen. Those concerned residents posting in your group? Several were paid accounts. Game over." Victoria. As deputies let her out, Victoria's perfect mask finally cracked completely. She looked small under the bright lights: rage, fear, and the dawning realization that her little kingdom of rules had just collapsed because one quiet homeowner refused to break. The room erupted in a mix of gasps, applause, and people suddenly finding the courage to share their own stories of fines and bullying. 6 months later, Oakwood Estates felt different. The new board, elected in a landslide, axed the most ridiculous rules and turned mandatory meetings into optional barbecues. Logan's business came roaring back stronger than ever. The publicity brought ethical brands and curious customers who loved the B-guy who took down the HOA Karen. Victoria was facing serious time. Her real estate license revoked, and the development scheme exposed across the state. Logan and Mia still sat on their back porch most evenings, watching the garden bloom and the bees work. Sometimes justice doesn't come with a dramatic courtroom speech. Sometimes it comes when the bully who weaponized community standards finally meets someone who understood the rules better than she did, and had the patience to wait for the perfect moment. So tell me, was Victoria Lang truly just a dedicated neighborhood protector trying to keep standards high? Or was she a textbook power-tripping Karen who got exactly what she deserved when her own tactics turned on her? Who was really in the wrong here, the homeowner who quietly said no to overreach? Or the HOA that turned a backyard garden into grounds for slander and false arrest? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever dealt with an HOA gone rogue? I read every comment.